Hi, this is Steve with Decware. One of the most popular questions that I get is about choosing the right Decware amplifier. I have likely mentioned this before, so forgive me, but we try to make everything sound as close to the original 2-watt Zen triode amplifier as humanly possible. It is an amplifier with only 3 parts in the signal path. The success or failure of any new product is tied to this transparency yardstick and is what dictates if we will make a product or not. So when you look at the Decware line of amplifiers, you are actually looking at the Decware sound across a limited range of power going from 2.3 watts to 60 watts per channel. This means that you really only have to figure out how much power you need and buy an amplifier in that range. You'll get the Decware sound, no worries about that. A 2.3 watt Zen triode amplifier will drive most any speaker at background music levels. But for a permanent pairing that feels unrestricted, you're likely going to want speakers that are in the mid to high 90s or even higher. My favorite speaker with this amp is the Zen Master Series Open Baffle, featuring a 15-inch full-range driver that is pushing 100 dB at 1 watt. The speed and tightness and depth of this combo creates a scale where you feel the orchestra in front of you. It wraps around you. There is incredible depth, 30 to 50 feet or more. The bass is as fast as the highs, and there is no shortage of it. Such efficient speakers can be an ideal pairing with a 2.3 watt amp. Sound is great. So, other than price, if both a 2 watt and all the way up to a 60 watt Decware amplifier sounds great on a 100 dB speaker, why pick one over the other? The answer is simply that once you hear a 2.3 watt Decware amplifier on such a speaker, you can't unhear it. That means that you're committed to 100 dB speakers for as long as you use a 2.3 watt amplifier. In many, if not most cases, this isn't really a problem. That said, if you like to play around with different types of speakers, ranging in sensitivity from the mid-80s to the mid-90s, then the ideal Decware amplifier would fall between 20 and 40 watts. A Tory or a Zen Mystery amp. If you are okay committing to speakers that are rated at 88 dB, or higher than you might be well served with one of the 6-watt amplifiers that we make. The two most popular are the Rachel or the Sarah. These amplifiers are both single-ended triodes, like the original 2-watt amplifiers but with larger tubes. Between these two 6-watt amplifiers, the Rachel is a favorite because of her exceptionally low noise floor and the ability to run 9 different kinds of output tubes. Each output tube has a different sonic signature, so you can voice your amplifier to your own personal liking. The Sarah, on the other hand, is perhaps the best sounding 300B amplifier value in the high-end audio market, meaning that you can actually afford if you're really serious. It uses AC heaters for the 300B output tubes, so it is not as silent as Rachel on speakers nearing 100 dB. Something to consider if you're new to tube gear. Anyway, those two 6-watt amplifiers are a win-win with most any speakers. Both amps can tolerate stupidly low impedances, so they will drive your speakers fine. It's just a matter of how loud. This brings me to another important point that needs to be addressed when trying to figure out how much power you need. The reason we turn up the volume is primarily to get 3 things to happen: density, detail, and dynamics. We're really not trying to make it louder. That's a consequence of the 3. Sadly, with the majority of systems, you have to crank it to a nearly uncomfortably loud level to get that maximum sensation of density and dynamics. If you play the music soft, there is no bass or dynamics. It just sounds thin. This means you have to turn up the volume to get it to sound right. The reason for this is the gain structures between components. See my video on gain structures for more information. Due to our different approach with gain structures, you don't have to hunt for these 3 things with the volume control. They are already there. This is why many report that the volume control on Decware gear makes things sound bigger instead of louder. So getting back to amplifier choices, this leaves the two big boys in the Decware line, the 40-watt Zen Mystery Amp and the 60-watt Torii Monos. These two amplifiers are the same basic circuit, but with different voltages and transformers. Both are mono blocks, it's just that the Zen Mystery Amp is both amps on the same chassis so that you only need one power cord. Power-wise, there really isn't much difference between 40 and 60 watts. It's less than 3 dB, so why make both? The Zen Mystery Amp uses the standard Decware voltage profile, where we run lower voltages with less power and less stress on the tubes. This gives a liquid and forgiving sound, and because of the output, transformer selection can drive extremely low impedances without getting its panties in a knot. It will actually drive electrostatic interfaces. The Torii Monos take this circuit and increase the voltage by 100 volts, which increases the power, but also changes the signature to a somewhat faster, more neutral signature, similar to solid state but without any grain or flatness. The higher voltages give these amps more kick and more spank, which complements lower efficiency speakers by being more aggressive with the higher moving mass of the low frequency drivers and high order crossover networks. While they sound great with even our single driver high efficiency speakers, they are paired with Deckware's house speakers, a three-way design using ScanSpeak's best drivers and coming in at around 88 dB. There are some other amps like the Mini Torii and the Taboo, but I will leave those two unique pieces for another video. So in summary, don't get too hung up on how each amplifier sounds, because it takes dedicated, intense listening to tell any of them apart from one another. Instead, I suggest focusing on power and features. None of our amplifiers require a preamp, and most have switching for two sources. If you are considering one of our preamps, you should try to approach it as a tool to make your source components sound better. The way I look at it is that you are just adding a pure Class A triode output stage with its own linear power supply to the output stage of your source component. Even if it's made from op amps, a source component's output stage will sound and image differently driving a high impedance vacuum tube versus a low impedance solid state stage. So often the sound is better before it enters the tube stage, and then the tube stage just gives it great big balls and opens things up more. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.